August 7, 1944. General Hans Eberbach commands 185 German tanks advancing toward the French coast. By sunset, only 60 tanks remain operational. What happened in those 7 hours reveals why Germany lost World War II, and it was because of tactics or courage. Welcome to History of World War II. Subscribe now. What you're about to see changed modern warfare forever. Normandy, France. August 6, 1944. 2 months after D-Day, the Allied breakout from Normandy is underway. American forces under General George Patton have smashed through German lines at Avranches, a coastal town at the base of the Cotentin Peninsula. Patton's Third Army is pouring through the gap, tanks, trucks, artillery racing south and east into open French countryside. For the German High Command, this is catastrophic. The entire German defensive position in France depends on containing the Allies in Normandy. If Patton's breakout succeeds, German armies will be outflanked, encircled, destroyed. The war in France will be lost within weeks. Adolf Hitler studies maps at his headquarters in East Prussia. He sees the danger clearly, but he also sees an opportunity. The American breakthrough at Avranches is a narrow corridor barely 20 kilometers wide. All of Patton's supplies, reinforcements, and communication lines flow through that single choke point. Hitler's solution is simple: counterattack. Drive west from Mortain to Avranches. Cut the American corridor. Trap Patton's entire Third Army south of the breakthrough. Restore the defensive line. Win time to reorganize German forces and prevent the collapse of the entire Western Front. It's a bold plan. Some would say desperate. But Hitler believes it can work if executed immediately with overwhelming armored force before the Americans can consolidate their positions. He orders Operation Lüttich, the last major German offensive in France. Command of the attack falls to General der Panzertruppen Hans Eberbach, commander of Panzer Group West, the collective designation for all German armored forces in Normandy. At 54 years old, Eberbach is a professional soldier who has commanded armored units since 1940. Poland, France, Russia. He understands combined arms warfare, logistics, tactical mobility. He has survived 4 years of mechanized combat and risen to command of Germany as premier armored formation in the West. For Operation Lüttich, Eberbach controls for Panzer divisions drawn from across Normandy: 1st SS Panzer Division Leibstandard Adolf Hitler, 2nd SS Panzer Division Das Reich, 2nd Panzer Division, and 116th Panzer Division. These aren't fresh formations. They've been fighting in Normandy for 8 weeks, bleeding tanks and men in daily combat against British and American forces. But they remain Germany's most capable offensive units in France. Total strength for the operation: approximately 185 operational tanks and 30 to 1,000 soldiers. The objective: drive 40 kilometers west through Mortain to the coastal town of Avranches. The plan calls for a rapid armored thrust, breaking through American lines before they can respond, reaching Avranches within 24 hours, cutting Patton's supply corridor, and holding the town until additional German forces can arrive to consolidate the position. It's ambitious. It requires speed, surprise, and perfect execution. But Eberbach knows it's also Germany's last chance to prevent disaster in France. There's just one problem, a problem Eberbach recognizes immediately when he receives his orders. Hitler has ordered the offensive to begin at dawn on August 7th. In daylight, under clear skies, with no air cover, Eberbach's intelligence officers check the weather forecast. Clear weather predicted for August 7th. Not a cloud, perfect visibility, perfect conditions for Allied aircraft. Eberbach protests. He argues for a night attack, or at minimum for waiting until weather deteriorates and clouds provide some cover from Allied fighter bombers. His staff officers support him. Everyone who has fought in Normandy understands what Allied air superiority means. Moving armored formations in daylight is suicide. Hitler overrules him. The attack must proceed immediately. Every hour of delay allows the Americans to strengthen their positions. Speed is essential. The offensive will launch at dawn, August 7th, regardless of weather, regardless of air threat. Eberbach has his orders. He will execute them. But as he prepares his forces during the night of August 6th, he understands what's coming. Clear skies mean Allied aircraft. Allied aircraft mean disaster. At 07:00 hours on August 7, 1944, the first German tanks roll west through Morton's narrow streets. Panther and Panzer for tanks, followed by half-tracks carrying infantry, trucks carrying ammunition and fuel, command vehicles coordinating the advance. The column stretches for kilometers, 185 tanks and hundreds of support vehicles moving in formation toward Avranches, 40 kilometers to the west. The initial advance goes well. American forces, primarily the 30th Infantry Division, are caught somewhat off guard. They've been focused on supporting Patton's breakout, not expecting a German counterattack. By 0800 hours, lead elements of 2nd Panzer Division have penetrated 8 kilometers west of Mortain. Infantry are falling back. Artillery is repositioning. For a brief moment, Operation Lüttich looks like it might succeed. Eberbach stands at his forward command post, watching the reports come in. Progress is good. The Americans are reacting, but not yet in strength. If the advance can maintain momentum, if the tanks can reach Avranches before American reinforcements arrive, the plan might actually work. Then he looks at the sky. Not a single cloud from horizon to horizon. Perfect visibility. Perfect weather for flying. Perfect conditions for exactly what Eberbach has been dreading. He knows what's coming. It's just a matter of when. But how could aircraft, even dozens of aircraft, stop an armored offensive? The answer lies in a weapon system the Germans had learned to fear. 836 hours, approximately 8 kilometers west of Mortain. RAF squadron leader, watching from 3,000 meters altitude, spots the German column. From his vantage point, the tanks and vehicles are clearly visible, armor moving west along a single road, completely exposed, no cover, perfect targets. He radios his squadron, armor below dock going in. The Hawker Typhoon, Britain's dedicated ground attack aircraft. It looks brutal because it has brutal thick wings, massive engine, built for low-altitude strikes against ground targets. Each Typhoon carries 8 P-3 rockets mounted under the wings. Each rocket has a 60-pound warhead on a 3-inch solid fuel motor. Velocity at impact, approximately 1,000 feet per second. Penetration capability, 5 inches of armor plate at 30-degree angle. German Panther tanks have 80 mm frontal armor too thick for Typhoon rockets to penetrate head-on, but side armor is only 45 mm, rear armor 40 mm. A direct hit from a Typhoon rocket on side or rear armor will penetrate, detonating inside the tank, killing the crew, igniting ammunition and fuel. But the rockets don't need direct hits to be effective. The 60-pound warhead creates massive blast effects. Near misses blow tracks off tanks, disable engines, kill exposed crew members, set fire to external fuel tanks and equipment. A tank that survives a rocket strike might still be immobilized, blinded, unable to continue fighting. The 1st RAF Squadron, approximately 12 Typhoons, dives from 3,000 meters to 600 meters. They fire 96 rockets into attack pauses. For minutes of violence. Then they're gone, climbing away, heading back to their airfield to rearm. In those 4 minutes, they claim 11 tanks destroyed and 23 vehicles burning. Post-battle verification will later confirm more modest results: 6 tanks hit, 18 trucks destroyed. But the immediate impact is beyond the kill count. The German column stops. Tanks disperse off the road, seeking cover in hedgerows. Infantry scatter into fields. Half-track drivers pull into tree cover. Officers shout orders, trying to reorganize formations. The entire advance halts for 37 minutes while crews assess damage, treat wounded, reorganize units. At Panzer Group West headquarters, Eberbach receives the first report at 0912 hours. 1 squadron. For minutes, the advance has stopped. He checks the weather forecast again. Clear skies predicted until 1900 hours. That's 11 hours of daylight remaining. If 1 squadron can halt the advance for 37 minutes, what will happen when more squadrons arrive? What Eberbach doesn't know, can't know, is that the first Typhoon attack has triggered a massive response. The British had been waiting for this moment. What happened next was systematic destruction. RAF's 2nd Tactical Air Force, commanded by Air Marshal Arthur Cunningham, had been preparing for exactly this scenario. Ultra-intelligence decrypted German communications had warned of the Mortain attack 18 hours earlier. British codebreakers at Bletchley Park intercepted German planning messages, decoded them, identified Operation Lüttich's objectives and timing, and forwarded warnings to Allied commanders. Cunningham responded by prepositioning his forces. Typhoon squadrons at forward airfields in Normandy were armed with rockets, fueled. Pilots briefed on likely German approach routes. When the first contact report arrived at 0838 hours, the response was immediate and overwhelming. By 0945 hours, 83 Typhoons from 6 squadrons are airborne, converging on Mortain. This isn't a random reaction. This is an industrial system designed specifically for this moment. Picture the scale. RAF 2nd TAF operates 18 forward airfields in Normandy by August 1944. Average distance from airfield to the front line, 35 kilometers. Flight time, 8 minutes. That proximity is decisive. Typhoons can respond to target requests in under 15 minutes from initial radio call to rockets on target. Each Typhoon squadron has approximately 18 aircraft. Each aircraft carries 8 rockets plus for 20mm cannons with 800 rounds total ammunition. Each squadron can launch, attack, return to base, rearm, and launch again in approximately 47 minutes. On August 7, 1944, RAF 2nd TAF has 27 Typhoon squadrons operational in Normandy. Total available aircraft, approximately 486 Typhoons. If each squadron flies just 3 sorties per day, a conservative estimate that's 81 squadron sorties, meaning 1,458 individual aircraft sorties, potentially firing 11,660 for rockets in a single day. Against Eberbach's 185 tanks, the theoretical ratio is 63 rockets per tank. The mathematics are overwhelming before the first bomb drops. At 10:15 hours, the second wave hits. 12 squadrons, approximately 116 Typhoons, attack German positions across a 15-kilometer front west of Mortain. They don't attack randomly. They're coordinated by forward air controllers embedded with American ground units. Captain position on Hill 314, a high point overlooking Mortain, has direct line of sight to German tank formations. From 200 meters above the valley floor, he can see everything, every tank movement, every repositioning, every attempt to advance. He radios target coordinates to RAF control every 8 to 12 minutes. The Typhoons adjust their attack runs based on real-time updates. German tanks can't hide. Every movement is spotted, reported, attacked within minutes. The result is devastating precision. 11:47 hours, 18 Typhoons attack 2nd SS Panzer Division column. 140 for rockets fired. Pilots claim 9 tanks destroyed. 1,123 hours, 20 for Typhoons hit 1st SS Panzer Division assembly area. 190 to rockets plus bombs. Pilots claim 12 tanks destroyed. 1,308 hours, 30 Typhoons strike 2nd Panzer Division near St. Barthélemy. 240 rockets. Pilots claim 15 tanks destroyed. The pattern repeats every 20 to 30 minutes. Typhoons attack, return to base, rearm in 47 minutes, attack again. It's industrial warfare, systematic, relentless, overwhelming. German tank crews try everything they can think of to survive. They disperse into bocage hedgerows for cover, but the narrow fields trap them, making reverse movement impossible. They camouflage tanks with foliage, but movement gives away positions instantly. They try advancing between airstrikes, but forward air controllers spot them immediately and call in more attacks. At 14:35 hours, Eberbach receives a report from 2nd Panzer Division commander. Further advance impossible. Losses from air attack 40%. Request permission to consolidate positions. Eberbach denies the request. Hitler's orders are explicit. Advance to Avranches regardless of casualties. The tanks stay on the roads. The Typhoons keep coming. Between 11:47 and 15:23 hours, a span of 3 hours. At 36 minutes, RAF 2nd Tactical Air Force flies to 190 for Typhoon sorties over the Mortain battlefield. This isn't harassment. This is systematic destruction coordinated minute by forward observers, who can see every German position. At 15:23 hours, the largest single attack of the day hits. 48 Typhoons for full squadrons concentrate on a 2-kilometer section of road, where 116th Panzer Division is attempting to bypass Mortain to the south. 380 for rockets fired in 6 minutes. Pilots claim 23 tanks destroyed, 47 vehicles burning. Ground verification later confirms 11 tanks destroyed, 8 disabled, 30 for trucks and half-tracks destroyed. But again, the real damage is operational paralysis. The 116th Panzer Division stops moving. It never advances another meter that day. Could anything have stopped this aerial onslaught? Eberbach was about to find out. The answer was no. By 1800 hours on August 7, 1944, Operation Lüttich has failed completely. German forces have advanced a maximum of 12 kilometers, less than 1/3 of the 40-kilometer objective to Avranches. The American corridor remains open. Patton's Third Army continues pouring through the gap. The counterattack that was supposed to save the German position in France has been stopped cold. The casualty reports tell the story of what happened. German tank losses, August 7th, 1944, 2nd SS Panzer Division, 31 tanks destroyed or disabled, 42% of starting strength. 1st SS Panzer Division, 28 tanks destroyed or disabled, 39%. 2nd Panzer Division, 41 tanks destroyed or disabled, 51%. 116th Panzer Division, 23 tanks destroyed or disabled, 35% total. 123 tanks out of 185 destroyed or disabled in one day. Loss rate, 66%. These numbers require context. Did RAF Typhoons literally destroy 123 tanks in 7 hours? No. Pilot claims during the battle totaled approximately 140 tanks destroyed, but combat claims are always inflated. Pilots see explosions, smoke, fires. They count disabled tanks as destroyed. They sometimes count the same tank multiple times as different squadrons attack the same area. Post-battle analysis conducted by Allied operational research sections examining the actual battlefield confirmed approximately 81 tanks destroyed directly by air attack. Another 40 tanks were disabled by near misses, tracks destroyed, engines damaged, crews killed by blast effects. These tanks couldn't fight and couldn't move, but they weren't technically destroyed. But the distinction between destroyed and disabled matters little operationally. A tank without tracks is as useless as a tank that's been blown apart. Either way, it's not advancing the Avranches. The real devastation, however, was in supporting vehicles. Tanks need logistics to function. They need fuel trucks, ammunition carriers, recovery vehicles, command posts, medical half-tracks. The Typhoon attacks devastated the support infrastructure. 247 trucks destroyed, 89 half-tracks destroyed. 30 for fuel tankers destroyed, 50 to ammunition carriers destroyed, 18 command vehicles destroyed. Total soft-skinned vehicle losses for 140 vehicles in 7 hours. These losses were catastrophic to operational capability. Tanks without fuel trucks can't advance. Tanks without ammunition carriers can't fight. Infantry without half-tracks can't keep pace with armor. Eberbach's Panzer Group West had been transformed from a mobile offensive force into a collection of isolated, immobile strongpoints scattered across the Mortain battlefield. At 19:23 hours 77 minutes after sunset, Eberbach receives the order he has expected all day. Suspend offensive operations. Consolidate positions. Prepare defensive lines. Operation Lüttich is over. It lasted 12 hours and 23 minutes. The last major German offensive in France has been crushed by Allied air power in less than a day. But why? What made this level of air dominance possible? The answer wasn't just the Typhoons. It was the entire system behind them. What destroyed Eberbach's offensive reveals why Germany lost the war. Keep watching. What destroyed Eberbach's counterattack at Mortain wasn't individual aircraft or brave pilots, though both played their roles. What destroyed Operation Lüttich was an integrated air-ground combat system that the Germans simply couldn't match. The system worked like this. Step 1. Detection forward air controllers. Embedded with American ground units spot German movements. They radio coordinates to RAF control centers. Average time from detection to radio call, 2 to 3 minutes. Step 2. Coordination. RAF control centers match available squadrons to targets based on location, priority, and aircraft availability. They assign specific squadrons to specific coordinates. They calculate timing to ensure continuous coverage without aircraft colliding over target areas. Average response time, for minutes. Step 3. Execution. Typhoon squadrons launch from forward airfields. They receive updated coordinates via radio during flight. They attack within 15 minutes of the initial request. Attack duration, for 2 to 6 minutes per squadron. Then they return to base to rearm. Step 4. Assessment. Pilots report results immediately after attack. Forward air controllers confirm kills, request follow-up strikes if needed. If targets remain, the cycle repeats with the next available squadron. The cycle operated continuously from dawn to dusk. On August 7th, RAF 2nd TAF maintained an average of 47 Typhoons over the Mortain battlefield at any given moment between 0830 and 1800 hours. That's constant coverage. As one squadron departed, another arrived. German tanks were under observation and attacked for 9.5 straight hours. German forces had no equivalent system. The Luftwaffe units in Normandy were scattered across airfields in eastern France, 150 to 200 kilometers from the front line. Response time to ground support requests, 90+ minutes, assuming aircraft were available at all. On August 7th, the Luftwaffe flew 23 sorties over Normandy. The RAF flew 290 for Typhoon sorties plus 412 additional fighter and bomber sorties. Total Allied air sorties that day, 706. Total German air sorties, 23. Ratio, 31-1. But even these numbers understate the disparity. Allied aircraft operated with complete freedom. No German fighters contested them. Anti-aircraft batteries that opened fire were immediately targeted and destroyed. German aircraft operated under constant threat. Allied fighters patrolled Luftwaffe airfields, shot down German planes during takeoff and landing, destroyed aircraft on the ground. The sky belonged to the Allies completely, and that dominance didn't happen by accident. Why couldn't Germany match Allied air power? The answer lies in factories, not battlefields. 3 days after the Mortain disaster, General Hans Eberbach attended a conference at Army Group B headquarters. The minutes of that conference, later captured by Allied forces, document a remarkable moment of clarity. Field Marshal Gunther von Kluge, commander of Army Group B, opened the meeting with a direct question: "Can we hold Normandy?" The documented accounts suggest Eberbach's response captured the essential truth of Germany's situation. German forces couldn't hold against Allied air power. Every movement in daylight was detected and destroyed within minutes. Tank losses from air attack exceeded losses from ground combat. Germany wasn't fighting just an army, it was fighting an industrial system that could replace losses faster than Germany could inflict them. Von Kluge asked what Eberbach needed to restore offensive capability. The answer was simple: air superiority. Without it, armored operations in daylight were suicide. Von Kluge asked if Germany could achieve air superiority. Eberbach's documented assessment was clear: no, not with current production rates, not with current pilot training capacity, not with current fuel supplies. The conference ended without resolution because there was no solution to propose. The industrial disparity was too large to overcome. Let's examine why that disparity existed, because the numbers tell the story of why Germany lost World War II. Aircraft production, 1944. Germany produced approximately 39,800 aircraft in 1944. That is an impressive achievement for a nation under constant strategic bombing, with factories being destroyed, transportation systems disrupted, and resources increasingly scarce. Britain produced approximately 26,500 aircraft in 1944, actually less than Germany. But Britain was fighting only one front: Western Europe. Britain could concentrate nearly all its air power in a single theater. Germany, by contrast, was fighting 3 fronts simultaneously: the Eastern Front against the Soviet Union, the Western Front against Britain and America, and the Mediterranean against Allied forces in Italy. German aircraft production had to be divided across 3 theaters. In Normandy, the Luftwaffe could concentrate only about 570 operational aircraft by August 1944. RAF's 2nd Tactical Air Force alone had approximately 2,847 operational aircraft in Normandy. On August 7, 1944, ratio 5-to-1 in favor of the Allies. But the real disparity became clear when American production entered the equation. The United States produced approximately 9,600 aircraft in 1944, more than twice Germany's total output. American factories delivered 16,331 fighters, 35,743 bombers, 21,770 transport aircraft, 2,470 trainers. Combined Allied production, approximately 122,800 aircraft in 1944. German production, 39,800 aircraft. Ratio, 3.1-to-1. But production numbers alone don't tell the full story. Loss rates matter just as much. Luftwaffe loss rates in 1944. Eastern Front, approximately 28% per month. Western Front, approximately 31% per month. At those rates, the entire Luftwaffe fighter force had to be replaced every 3.5 months. German factories were producing aircraft as fast as they could, but losses exceeded production. The force was shrinking month by month. RAF loss rates in 1944, approximately 4.2% per month. At that rate, the RAF fighter force needed replacement every 24 months. British and American factories were producing far more aircraft than combat losses required. The force was growing month by month. The mathematics were brutal. Germany had to produce approximately 7.4 times more fighters than Britain just to maintain force levels. But Germany was producing only 1.5 times more, and that had to be split across 3 fronts. By August 1944, the Luftwaffe was operationally defeated. Not because German pilots lacked skill, many were extraordinarily skilled. Not because German aircraft lacked quality, the FW-190 was an excellent fighter. The Luftwaffe was defeated because German industry couldn't replace losses fast enough, while simultaneously supporting operations on 3 fronts. This is what Eberbach understood at that conference on August 10th. The tactical problem, Allied air superiority, was actually a strategic problem, rooted in industrial capacity. and there was no tactical solution to a strategic industrial deficit. 5 days after Eberbach's conference on August 15th, the consequences of Morton's failure became catastrophic. The Falaise pocket began to close. Eberbach's Panzer group west what remained of it was trapped along with elements of 7 German armies. The pocket measured approximately 40 kilometers long and 15 kilometers wide at its maximum extent. Inside, approximately 100,000 German soldiers, 340 for tanks including reinforcements that had arrived after Mortain, and 2,300 vehicles. Above, 2,800 Allied aircraft flying continuous attack missions. Between August 15th and August 21st, Allied aircraft flew thousands of sorties over the Falaise pocket. RAF Typhoons, American P-47 Thunderbolts, P-51 Mustangs. They attacked in waves from dawn to dusk, systematic destruction of everything that moved. Pilots claimed over 500 vehicles destroyed in the first 3 days alone. Post-battle analysis confirmed that approximately 1/3 of all destroyed German vehicles inside the pocket were lost to air attack. The rest were abandoned when crews fled the constant bombing and strafing. The roads inside the pocket became killing grounds. Vehicles couldn't move without being attacked. Soldiers couldn't advance without being strafed. The pocket shrank day by day as Allied ground forces closed in from all sides, while Allied aircraft destroyed everything inside. German casualties inside Falaise pocket: 10,000 killed, 50,000 captured, approximately 20,000 to 50,000 escaped. Before the pocket closed completely on August 21st, Eberbach was not among the captured at Falaise. He escaped the encirclement and continued commanding remnants of German armored forces during the retreat across France. But his war ended soon after British forces captured him near Amiens on August 31st, 1944. In his later accounts, those specific quotes should be treated carefully, as they come from post-war recollections. Eberbach reportedly reflected on what happened at Mortain. The essence of his observation: Germany lost the battle in 7 hours, but had already lost the war in the factories. The outcome at Mortain was simply confirmation of an industrial reality that had determined the war's trajectory long before August 7, 1944. The Mortain counterattack failed because 185 German tanks faced a system that could deploy 486 Typhoons, 18 forward airfields, and effectively unlimited replacement capacity. On the morning of August 7, 1944, General Hans Eberbach commanded 185 tanks and believed he could reach Avranches in 1 day. By sunset, he commanded 60 operational tanks and understood the war was lost. What changed in those 12 hours was when German courage tank crews fought with the same determination at 1800 as they had at 0700. What changed was German tactical skill. Eberbach and his officers executed their plans, as well as circumstances allowed. What changed was the realization that courage and skill were irrelevant against an opponent who could deploy to 190 for Typhoon sorties in a single day, fire thousands of rockets, and replace every loss within 2 weeks, while Germany took months to rebuild destroyed formations. The Mortain counterattack proved what the entire Normandy campaign had already demonstrated. World War II was decided not on battlefields, but in factories. Germany produced 39,800 aircraft in 1944, an impressive achievement. The Allies produced 122,800 aircraft, 3.1 times more. Germany produced approximately 27,300 tanks in 1944, more than enough to equip dozens of Panzer divisions. The Allies produced approximately 51,400 tanks, 1.9 times more. The numbers were insurmountable. Every German tank destroyed at Mortain took weeks or months to replace. New production had to be distributed across multiple fronts, transported under constant air attack, crewed by increasingly inexperienced soldiers. As veteran tankmen died faster than training schools could replace them, every Allied aircraft lost could be replaced within days from factories operating at full capacity, with trained pilots flowing from extensive training programs in Britain and America, far from combat zones. At those rates, Germany couldn't win. It could only delay the inevitable, and delay was getting shorter every month as Allied production accelerated, while German production struggled under strategic bombing, resource shortages, and transportation disruptions. The lesson of Mortain isn't about tactics or technology, though both mattered. The lesson is about industrial capacity and sustainable warfare. Wars between industrialized nations are won by the side that can build more, replace faster, and sustain losses longer while maintaining operational effectiveness. In 1944, that side was the Allies. The factories had already decided the outcome. The battles were just confirmation. Eberbach survived the war. He was released from British captivity in 1948, returned to Germany, lived until 1992, 48 years after Mortain. The Hawker Typhoon continued service with the RAF until 1945, eventually being replaced by jet aircraft. Of the 486 Typhoons available for operations in Normandy in August 1944, production continued replacing losses until war's end. The system that defeated Eberbach at Mortain forward airfields, coordinated air-ground operations, rapid rearmament cycles became the model for close air support in modern warfare. The battlefield at Mortain remains relatively unchanged. The hills where forward air controllers directed strikes still overlook the valleys where German tanks burned. Local museums preserve the history of Operation Lüttich. Visitors can walk the ground where industrial warfare's mathematics were demonstrated with brutal clarity. If this story changed how you understand World War II, subscribe now. We rate covering the entire war through these moments where industrial capacity determined outcomes more decisively than battlefield courage. This video presents historical events based on documented records, including Allied operational research, RAF squadron records, and post-war analyses. Specific battlefield details, casualty figures, and some quotes are drawn from multiple sources and post-war accounts. Historical interpretations of pilot claims versus confirmed kills vary among sources. Viewers are encouraged to consult military archives and scholarly research when studying this period. This is History of World War II. Subscribe for deeply researched documentaries revealing how industrial capacity, not just battlefield tactics, determine the outcome of history's largest war.